Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into a core capability that often just gets treated like a shopping list, FinOps Tools and Services.
Right.
But it's so much more than that. For a practice to be effective, this capability is really the foundation for, well, for everything else. It's not just about procurement, it's about strategy.
It absolutely is. I
Hmm.
mean, when we talk about operationalizing FinOps, the tools and services piece is that critical infrastructure layer. Our mission today is pretty specific. We want to understand the structured approach to managing, evaluating, and then implementing these resources.
So we're looking for the criteria, the actual checkpoints.
Exactly. The things that turn a random collection of licenses into a cohesive, high-value strategy that actually aligns with your business goals.
Okay, let's unpack this right away then. The first step, and the source material is very clear on this, is defining the difference between a tool and a service.
Hmm.
It sounds basic, but I can see how getting it wrong leads to some terrible budget decisions.
Oh, that clarity is vital. Think of it this way. A FinOps tool is software. It's any cloud provider's native tool, a third-party platform, or something you built internally,
Something you log into.
something you log into or integrate with, yeah. It supports capabilities through automation and data visualization.
Yeah.
Tools can be these massive, broad platforms or really targeted specialty things.
Okay, so if I need hyper-specific optimization for, say, my Kubernetes clusters, that's a specialty tool. But if I just need basic reporting on my AWS spend, I might start with something broader.
Precisely. You're buying software to manage data. A FinOps service, on the other hand, is a third-party resource delivering an outcome.
So people.
People, yeah. Human capital,
Hmm.
external expertise.
Mm.
This is your training, your consultants, managed services where they take over certain tasks.
You're buying expertise, not a login and an API key.
Exactly. And that distinction is crucial. They solve different problems.
Right. So before an organization even starts looking at vendors, the source material just hammers this point home.
Mm.
You have to manage a formal tools and services strategy. What's the point of all that pre-work?
Pre-work is, it's the difference between success and a very costly failure. There are 4 critical steps that have to happen first. The very first one is mapping any potential tool or service to specific, defined organizational objectives.
So alignment is king.
It is. If the tool can't show how it helps the business achieve its goals, like, say, reducing committed spend by 15%, then it's already irrelevant.
And what's the next big hurdle?
Identifying all the organizational policies that apply. We're talking security, compliance, data residency, all those rigid rules.
The red tape that can kill a project before it starts.
Totally. If a tool needs access to data that your security policy forbids from leaving your network, you've just saved yourself 6 months of useless evaluation by checking that policy first.
Huge time saver. And the third step is just inventory.
Simple, but so often skipped. Cataloging the tools and services you're currently using.
The ones you're already paying for.
The ones you're already paying for. Organizations often have, half a dozen tools doing bits and pieces of cost visibility. You have to make sure you're not just buying something redundant.
And the fourth strategic step, the classic challenge, build versus buy.
Yep, and this needs to be a full analysis. You have to consider the requirements for building something internally versus just buying a commercial offering.
So what's the trigger for one versus the other?
Well, for instance, if your data compliance is so unique that no vendor meets it, building might be your only choice. But if you just need standard reporting and you need it fast, buying gets you that value immediately. It's a trade-off. Cost, time, maintenance, all of that.
And the source material is really firm here. Skip this strategic groundwork, you waste massive amounts of time.
And money. You have to consider your existing cloud strategy, your vendor relationships, and, this is critical, the organization's real appetite for adopting new tools.
If the engineers are just going to ignore it.
Exactly. If they refuse to adopt new dashboards and only want data in Slack, then the tool is doomed from the start no matter how good it is.
Right. Let's move to the evaluation process itself. We've done our homework, we have our requirements, now we start looking at the market.
Okay, so organizations have to create and continuously revise these detailed selection requirements. Then you map them directly to the tool's functionality or the service offering.
And here's where it gets really interesting, and I think this is a key takeaway for you, the listener. The source material says very clearly there is no single FinOps tool that is objectively the best. Why is that?
Because FinOps is all about context. What's best for a small startup is, frankly, useless for a massive global enterprise focused on container chargeback. Success is all about finding the right combination of resources, procured, built, whatever, that's tailored to your unique situation.
It's like assembling a personalized tool belt.
That's a great analogy. It really is.
So how does an organization even navigate all the options out there? It's a crowded market.
Well, they don't have to start from scratch. There are resources like the FinOps landscape from the FinOps Foundation that exist to help with this. You can filter by capability like resource utilization and see the range of tools, but you still have to judge their fitness based on your own strategic pre-work.
Okay, so you've selected one. Implementation can't just be sending out an email with a license key.
No, please don't do that. First, you configure the tool, you integrate the data sources. Second, and this is so undervalued, you have to provide the required training to all the users.
If they don't know how to use it, the ROI is zero.
Zero. And third, you prioritize deployment. Go by organizational unit, by persona, by the capability you're trying to enable first. Don't try to boil the ocean.
And there's a huge warning here. The tool can automate tasks, sure, but you cannot expect the tool to solve your organizational problems for you.
Yes. The tool is an amplifier for human insight, not a substitute. It's just a repository of complex data. If your team doesn't have the skills to understand that data and turn it into action, you just bought a very expensive dashboard.
And that applies to services too, right? Consultants can give you a fast start, which is great for early-stage teams. But what's the long-term risk?
Over-reliance. It creates dependence, and it stops your own team from developing. If the consultant is the only one who knows how to do, say, rate optimization, what happens when their contract ends?
The knowledge walks out the door.
It walks right out the door. You could use services to accelerate learning, not to replace it.
That makes perfect sense. The whole tool set has to be dynamic.
Which brings us to maturity. This strategy has to evolve.
Correct. And the maturity assessment gives you a clear benchmark. Crawl, walk, and run. It helps you see where you are and what you need to do to get to the next stage.
Let's start at crawl, the entry point. What does that look like?
The crawl stage is all about basic visibility. They're probably just using the cloud-native billing dashboards.
And it's very reactive.
Very reactive. They have little to no requirements gathering, low acceptance criteria, they do no real market research, and critically, no buy versus build analysis. They just use whatever is easiest to solve today's fire drill. So if the loudest person in the room gets the tool they want, you're probably in crawl. What defines the shift to walk?
Walk is where you start to see organized effort. They have a good level of requirements gathering, pulling in finance and engineering, not just the FinOps team. And they perform a basic buy versus build analysis, which, and this is a huge shift, leads to defining an actual ROI plan for the investment.
So they're thinking proactively about value.
Yes, and they start providing some training, maybe just for new people, but it's a start.
That move from no requirements to a defined ROI plan, that's a massive organizational leap.
It is. It shifts the entire conversation from how much does this cost to what value will this generate.
So what defines the run stage, the fully matured advanced practice?
Run is about detailed visibility across all stakeholders and a real commitment to automation. They do detailed requirements gathering from every single persona involved.
And the buy versus build analysis.
It's sophisticated. It includes a precise expected ROI within a defined time frame. And the implementation itself is detailed and includes automation for routine tasks, like cleaning up waste.
So they aren't just using the tool is starting to become autonomous.
Exactly. And they have a mature, ongoing evaluation process. They don't just set it and forget it. They are constantly comparing their current tool set against what's new in the market. It's a continuous improvement loop.
Getting to run clearly isn't just the FinOps team's job. Let's talk about who is functionally involved in making this work.
It requires coordination across at least 5 key groups. FinOps has to be the translator between all of them.
I'll start with the FinOps practitioner. They're the champion here.
For sure. Their main role is making sure all stakeholders are involved in requirements. They're the ones working directly with users on implementation, training, and driving that ongoing evaluation.
Then you have engineering. They hold keys to the kingdom.
They really do.
Yeah.
Engineering supports the technical side, security, compliance, and they provide the automation and integration expertise. Plus, they supply the raw performance data the tool actually needs to work.
Finance provides the discipline.
Yes, finance helps build requirements from a monetary perspective. They help build the budgets and forecasts around the tool, and they help evaluate its cost effectiveness against that ROI plan.
Where does procurement fit in?
Procurement manages the commercial side, the RFPs, the contracts. They're critical because they use the evaluation data from the FinOps team to drive future negotiations.
So better data means better deals.
Better data means much better deals.
Yeah.
And finally, you have leadership.
They provide the top-down support.
Right? They provide the executive sponsorship. Without it, none of this cross-functional work happens. They ensure the strategy aligns with company objectives, and they're the ones who ultimately sign off on the investment.
And these decisions, they aren't made in a vacuum. What are the mandatory inputs guiding this whole process?
There are 3 non-negotiable inputs: your organization's cloud policy, your security and compliance policies, and your established procurement processes. These often define what's possible before you even look at a single tool.
So, after all this planning, what does success actually look like?
It's measured in 2 ways, really. How well did the tool meet the business case you built for it, and did you achieve a positive, provable ROI?
We need specifics. What are the KPIs that show you've nailed this?
The sources give us 4 really good ones. First, the total annual cloud cost savings or avoidance that you can directly attribute to the tool.
You have to prove it paid for itself.
You have to. Second, the percentage of your target audience that successfully adopted and is actually using the tool. Adoption is everything.
And the third one is about user experience, which often gets forgotten.
It's so crucial. We look at the customer experience score, usually measured by something like a Net Promoter Score or NPS.
Basically, would your users recommend it to a colleague?
Right. If that score is low, adoption will eventually fail no matter how many features it has. And the fourth KPI is a post-implementation check-in. Does the tool still meet the initial requirements?
It loops right back to the beginning. It's a cycle. So what's one high-value action that mature organizations do to make sure they hit that high adoption KPI?
They allocate a budget for training, specifically ongoing training. They don't treat it as a one-time thing.
It's not just onboarding.
No, it's continuous enablement. This fosters consistent, frequent use. You can buy the best software in the world, but if your users don't know how to really use it every day, you've wasted your money.
This whole capability tools and services, it just hammers home that FinOps is less about technology and more about, well, organizational behavior and process. It's a cycle of strategic alignment, evaluation, and maturity. The goal is never to find one magic bullet, but to build a tailored mix of tools that evolves as you move from crawl to walk to run.
It's the strategy that matters, not the subscription. The tool is just the lever, the skilled team, and the aligned process. That's the mechanism that actually pulls the value out of the cloud.
That is a fantastic way to put it. Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on this week. We established that core organizational policies, security, compliance are mandatory inputs that guide tool selection. So, what happens when an organization realizes its own rigid internal policies are the very thing preventing it from adopting the most effective tool on the market? What happens when policy gets in the way of business value?
That's the question, isn't it?
Does the maturity of the FinOps strategy then earn the right to influence, challenge, and potentially change that internal policy itself?
That is the true sign of FinOps maturity. When the operational capability starts driving strategic policy change, it's something every practitioner is going to have to grapple with eventually.